We're the invention state. More patents than any other state in the country. People don't even know that. That goes back to Thomas Edison. The wonderful diversity of the state's geography. The best shoreline in the entire country for recreation. At the same time, we have the mountains along the Kittatinny Ridge, looks like New England. We have the southern flatlands, the pine barrens. I'm proud of that. I'm proudest, I guess, of our people. I mean, we've got so many great people from New Jersey, many of them in this museum. But you're proud every day, just the average New Jerseyan. I mean, they're good people. And they're doing good things every single day in their own lives. Find out what you like to do, and then do it. The most successful people in the world are people who enjoy going to work every day. Don't look at it as a chore, but enjoy what they're doing. So the best advice I give my children, or anybody's children, I think, is find out what you like. Try it. See if you can be successful at it. If you can't, then look for something else. But try it. Try what you really like. And if you're successful there, I think you'll have a wonderful life. I think if you found your passion, you're always going to be sure. Because you're passionate about it. You get up in the morning and you're excited about what you're going to do that day. And when you've got that sense of excitement, and at the end of the day, when you've got a feeling of satisfaction, you've accomplished something. Let's say you've really gotten to that kid in the classroom. Let's say you've really found, as a chef, let's say you've really gotten the meal you wanted to create. It's there, and you know it's great, and you know it's good. When you've reached that, whatever it is, you'll know it. If you read the biography of any of the people who you and I would admire, whether it's Abraham Lincoln, or George Washington in the political field, or whether it's some of the great actors on the stage, or whether it's a great writer or novelist, or whoever it happens to be, you find out that they've had really dark periods. By dark periods, I mean periods that had real self-doubt. They didn't really think they were going to make it. They had some tragedy in their life, and they didn't know if they're going to be able to overcome that. And that's when you're tested. And that's when it's very, very difficult. And you have to find an inner strength at that point. So for some people, it comes from religion. Other people, sometimes from a philosophy. Some people get it somehow in their own character. But somehow that's what tests you. And no matter how successful you are, you're going to be tested at some point or other. And you've got to remember, out there are the uplands. It looks dark today, but the dawn is coming tomorrow. And that's what you've got to always remember, and always look at the horizon. Never look down at your feet. Like the ancient Greeks in that first democracy, you find it by looking for it. And you aspire to it. And you try to make yourself a little better today, a little better tomorrow, do something a little better the day after. And it's like climbing a stairway. Paul Robeson used to sing, "I'm climbing Jacob's ladder. Every run gets higher and higher." And you can't get to an arete tomorrow, or the day after, or the day after. You keep on working at it. And sooner or later, if you keep on working at it, you're going to get there. Pride's important because you've got to have a sense of who you are. Doesn't matter if you're an individual or you're a state. If you don't feel good about yourself, you're not going to get as much accomplished. If you don't feel as good about yourself in what you do every day, whether it's going to school and doing your work, or whether it's having a job, if you don't feel good about what you do, you're not going to be as good or successful. And the state's the same way. If you really understand how good New Jersey is, if you really understand all the great things we have here, if you're really proud to be from New Jersey, then the state is going to get better every day because its citizens feel that way. If I had to give advice to future political leaders, I would say, first of all, be yourself. There are so many political leaders in this country today, men and women who I think are good folks, but they read the polls and they figure, well, if I'm going to be elected, I got to believe this, or I got to believe that, or I got to say this or say that. And then they end up not really being themselves, not being true to themselves, not being honest. And I think you got to be yourself, and you got to say what you believe. People didn't agree with me on a lot of things, but I think they thought I was straight with them. And I think they would have elected me forever, frankly. I mean, I won by 700,000 votes. guess, carried every city in the state. I mean, but not because they agreed with me and everything, but they thought I was being totally straight with them. They said what I believed, and I think that's what I would advise people. And don't think just because they disagree with you on an issue, they're going to vote against you. I mean, I disagree with my wife on a lot of issues, but I still support her and she still supports me. Ronald Reagan, I think, who was a president who could have been elected forever. I think 40% of the country disagreed with him on a lot of issues, maybe 50%. But they would have elected him forever because they thought he was straight and honest and he did what he believed. And so I'd say that. Figure out, first of all, if you want to run for office, figure out what do you want to do with that office. Before you even declare for running for it, decide what you want to do. Why are you running? And you're not running for yourself. You're not running because you're ambitious. You're running because you want to do something for other people. And what is it you want to do? And if you believe you can do that, and you can improve people's lives, then run. Say what you believe, go out there, present that to people, and hey, if you don't get elected, you've still been true to yourself, and you can go do something else. But don't get elected by telling people what you don't believe. And I'm afraid too many of our politicians, particularly in the nation's capital, are doing that today. A whole series of reasons are polarizing this country today. It's not any one reason. It's a whole series of things. And it's a Washington disease. We're not so badly polarized in New Jersey. The infection's coming from Washington. It's not so bad here. In Washington, they only work, it's Congress is where Congress is the center of the problem. They only work 4 days a week. They go down on Tuesday morning and they go home Thursday night. They don't know each other. They're all after campaign money. The minute they get elected, they start raising money again. Money is the cancer in the system. They worry about having these, attacking each other all day long. And if somebody's sitting next to you in the Congress, and you think their be-all and end-all is to come into your district and campaign against you the next election, you're not going to get along with them very well. And then the talk radio. I mean, you don't get in. They don't want people like me in talk radio because I'm in the center. I can see both sides and I've always been good at making compromises. They don't want compromises. They want hard right and hard left because that sells. And so you get more people hard right and hard left. And it's turning off people. I mean, it's turning off people badly. I mean, people I know who I've had in class who are my students, who would be wonderful running for office, be wonderful public servants, don't want to do it. These problems were created by people, right? If they're created by people, they can be solved by people. That's really the answer. First of all, you and I, we've got to start valuing the middle. We've got to recognize that we wouldn't have a country unless the people at the Constitutional Convention had gotten together around something they call the New Jersey Plan. It was a compromise between the big states and the small states. They could have fought and walked apart, we wouldn't have had a country. But they compromised their beliefs, and therefore we were able to write a constitution, which has held this country together ever since. At the best times in this country, when the toughest issues have been facing us, we've compromised. And we compromise around the middle. We have people always on the right, we have people always on the left. Then in the past, there's always been a body in the center, and around those center positions is where you make your compromises. So you've got to value those people. Right now, if you're a centrist running for election, if you're in a Republican primary, you may be challenged from the right, and they'll try to knock you out. If you're a Democrat, they're going to be challenged from the left, and they'll try to knock you out. You and I, the voting public, has got to support the people in the center. We've got to tell the right and the left, go do your thing. But most of the country is in the center. 60% of the people in the country believe not way right or way left, but they believe the center, and they believe in compromising. And we've got to, we've got to support the center. We've got to elect people who are going to make those compromises. Compromise is not a dirty word. It's the way the country was founded. In the end, it's not those people. It's you and I. It's you and I. Most people in this country wouldn't think of voting in a primary. And that's why the right can come into a primary and knock out the center, because the right are the only ones who are voting in the primary. And the same thing happens on the left. You know, if somebody's challenged on the left, people on the far left are the only ones come out to vote in the primary. And so we lose good centrists. I mean, people who I served with now tell me they don't think they'd get elected today. I mean, good people you and I both admire, tell me they don't know if they'd run today and if they could get elected. The Republican Party, they'd be knocked out by the right. Democratic people knocked out by the left. And we got to change redistricting. I mean, redistricting, we set up too many districts which are one-party districts. We got to get back to a time when the districts are competitive. We have maybe one competitive district in New Jersey, if that, now. You know, I was younger, we used to have 3 or 4 competitive districts, and good people would run against each other, and the one who was closest to the center usually won, not the one who was off hero. The one who was closest to the center usually won. The greatest satisfaction I have is when either a student of mine or a kid I worked for 7 years at a camp for underprivileged kids, one of those people I see 40 years later in some case, and they say, you know what you said to me that day? I've always remembered it and it's really helped. I mean, to have somebody say that to you 30, and you don't remember what it was. You don't remember the moment, you don't remember talking to that kid, you don't remember what you said. But when they come back and say, that made a difference in our lives. We're better off today because of something you did or something you said. If you can change somebody's life, that's about as good as it gets. And of course I'm proud of some of the government. I'm kind of, say, preserving the New Jersey coast from development. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of a lot of the environmental protections that we put in place. I'm proud of the Education and Opportunity Act because more kids have been able to go to college because of that than anything else in the state. I'm proud of any number of things. I'm proud of the buildings I built, you know, the Performing Arts Center in New Jersey, or the Liberty Science Museum, or the Aquarium in Camden, or the theater section. I'm proud of all that stuff. But I think it's the people I influenced. And people will come up and say, if it wasn't for you, my life would have been a bit different. I think that's what I'm probably proudest of. The 9/11 Commission was an incredible experience just to be able to chair that commission. And one of the things I'm proudest of, by the way, that is the last, that's as we speak, that was 10 years ago we issued our report. And it was, believe it or not, it was the last bipartisan commission of any importance that was unanimous on anything. So the bipartisan center in Washington now wants to celebrate, say, how did you do it? When you can't be partisan, how did you get to be bipartisan? Well, there's a lot of good people in both parties working together. But the idea of preserving our civil liberties and keeping ourselves safe is the great choice of our time. And we've got to get that balance right. I think you do it by disclosure. I think the government's been far too secretive. They haven't told us what they're doing. I mean, frankly, if somebody tells me, because of the technological age we live in, that we've got to know more about you than we used to have to know, and this is how we're going to collect that information, and we're doing it to keep you safe, I may say, I understand that. It's a new world we live in. I think that may be okay. But if you do it without telling me, I'm going to say, what the hell are you doing? And what are you trying to find out about me and you're not telling me about it? And that's where we're in today. And so I think we've got to make some compromises. We've got to do things to keep each other safe. But we've got to also, in this freest of all countries, try to keep those liberties and make sure the government isn't too intrusive. And that's the balance. That's a very delicate balance. And I think the only way we're going to get there is by making everything public. I think this president's got to be a lot more forthcoming. I think people have got to know what's going on. We got to know what the dangers are and what our government's going to do to protect us from those dangers. And if we have to make sacrifices of our civil liberties, let us make that choice. Not government. Let us make that choice. We should always be worried about a potential another 9/11. Frankly, that it's changed. I mean, right now, I believe we've done enough so it's going to be almost impossible for anybody to pull off another 9/11. Now it's a different threat. It's coming from smaller Al-Qaeda groups. It'll be smaller attacks. It'll be things like Boston, or the attempt to blow a bomb in Times Square. Usually 1 or 2 people trying to do something. That's the kind of thing we're fighting today. And we've got to continue to do that. At the same time, on the larger stage, the biggest danger we've ever had is for a terrorist with his hands on a nuclear device. So we've got to continue to try and limit and eliminate nuclear weapons and chemical weapons around the world. That's the largest stage. Smaller stage, we protect ourselves the best we can from these smaller attacks. And one of them's going to get through every now and then. But the large ones aren't. And that's all we can do. Oh, the average person is the one who prevents almost everything. If you remember, when that guy tried to put a bomb in a car on Times Square, there are more policemen than any other area of the world per square foot. The policemen, you go to Times Square, you see policemen all over the place. They didn't find it. You know who found it? A street vendor. A street vendor found it, and he thought it was suspicious, and he reported it, and that's how that was stopped. When that guy tried to, so-called underpants bomber, there was a passenger in the plane. It wasn't an air marshal in there. It was a passenger in the plane. Detected that something was wrong there. And all these incidents, it's us. It's people who see something wrong and report it. Government's job is to make that reporting seamless. So if you or I see something and report it, it goes from our local policeman right up to a center in Washington. They get a reading on it and immediately react. That's government's job. But our job is to be alert. Make sure there are no unattended packages lying around in airports. See if anybody's doing something really suspicious. Don't just go home and say, that was suspicious. Report it. And if we keep alert, you and I, not the government, you and I, then I think we'll be just fine. Well, I think, all of us in New Jersey have a bit of a chip on our shoulder. Benjamin Franklin called us a keg tapped at both ends. So we got a little chip, particularly toward New York on this end of the state, and maybe the other end of the state a little bit toward Pennsylvania or Philadelphia. We are as good as they are, if not better, and we really know it. And we have that little chip on our shoulder. There's no question about it. New Jersey people are tough. This slogan, New Jersey and you perfect together, we were trying to come up with something, and we hired an advertising firm. We said to any advertising firm which had more than four employees in New Jersey could compete. We had hundreds of them compete. And the firm that came up with a slogan that we'd pick from a panel would get to state business. So that was a good incentive. State business means money to them. So we had all these firms compete, and the one that won was New Jersey and you perfect together. And I asked my friend Bill Cosby if he'd do the first commercial for us, and he did. And it was fine. And then we couldn't find anybody to do the second one. And somebody said, well, until we find another actor who's willing to do it. I think we asked Springsteen, he said no, for instance. We're trying to get somebody else to do it. I said, why don't you do it? I said, I'll do one or two. And then the reaction to my doing them, and saying New Jersey and you perfect together and looking into the camera and smiling on the beach, suddenly was a huge hit. And the advertising agency has told me that it has greater what they call residuals. Residuals means that people remember the commercial and react to it than any commercial I've ever done for any product or any place. If for some reason New Jersey and you perfect together, and my peculiar accent was a great hit and still is, and people still come, 25 years later, people come up to the street and say it, and I know what they want me to say. They want me to say New Jersey and you perfect together.
You made people feel good about themselves.
That was the idea. And, I sold it to the legislature as a way to bring tourists into the state, but that wasn't my real. New Jersey doesn't always have the image you want it to have. And I thought two things. I thought, first of all, that people outside the state need to feel better about New Jersey. So why don't we run some ads showing them all the good things, showing them the wonderful shore, showing them the sports complex, showing them Atlantic City, showing them all the things we're proud of in New Jersey, and the historical images in New Jersey. There's the cockpit of the revolution in New Jersey here. Why not show people that? And secondly, I've always felt that you can't really do anything unless you feel good about yourself. And so what we had to do was really convince New Jersey, what I think they knew, but they weren't necessarily convinced of, that this is a great place to live. There isn't a better state, and we should be proud of New Jersey. And so the commercials, I think, had that purpose, but more importantly, they had that effect. I think those commercials really helped people to be proud of New Jersey. And once we figured we were proud of ourselves, we We created more jobs in that period than any other time in the state's history. 750,000 new jobs came into the state in my 8 years. And I think part of it was those New Jersey knew perfectly other commercials.
Thank you for saying that.